Hey everyone, my name is Sohan, and today we're going to be talking about how to play chess, and at the end of the video we're going to be doing an analysis on one of my games. So let's begin. So to begin with, let's start off with the pawn. A pawn is worth one value point, and it can normally move one space at a time, like this. So if we bring the pawn all the way back over here, in some conditions, whenever a pawn is on the A2 rank through the H2 rank, not including these spaces, the ones that I've highlighted in red, not including those spaces, if a pawn is on this rank, only on this rank for white, the pawn can move 2 spaces, like so. But if it's not on there, I can only move 1 space. Same with the black, but instead of A2 to H2, it's A7, sorry, to H7. And not including these red squares that I've highlighted. So, with that rule of thumb, you might be wondering, oh, well, it's quite easy to understand that whenever a pawn is, for example, clear the board. Whenever white's pawn here and then black's pawn is over here, it's quite simple. If I move here and black's pawn moves to E5, I can just go forward and I can take the pawn. But no. That is actually not how you take a piece. With a pawn, you can capture only diagonally, but move only forward. And the pawn can't go backwards. This is just sandbox mode. But normally a pawn cannot go backwards, right? Normally a pawn cannot go backwards. I'm just repeating that multiple times. And the next piece is the bishop. The bishop is normally on C1 and F1 for white, while it's quite the opposite. It's C8 and CF for black. So, and the bishop can move diagonally on its color any space that it wants to. So, for example, if we go and replace these pieces real quick, sorry. If we go and move our bishop from here to here, then black's bishop can, since it's on the same diagonal, we can take, right? But in certain conditions where if my bishop's here and black's bishop's here, and black instead moves his black bishop, I can take black's white squared bishop. I say white squared because one of black's bishops is on a white square. I can only move in the diagonal of a white square. Same thing with the black squared bishop, but only for black. So now let me clear the board again, and this is quite the most complex piece. It's the knight or horse. The knight sits on B2 and no, not B2, sorry, what am I saying? On B1 and G1 for white, and for black it is G8 and B8. B8. And the horse doesn't move diagonally or doesn't move forward. Instead, it actually moves in an L shape. So 2 spaces one direction, but 1 space another direction. For example, black's bishop can go over here because it is 1, 2 spaces like here, and then 1 space this direction. So this is a valid play. But black's bishop cannot, I repeat, cannot do this. it cannot go 2 spaces and then 1 space diagonally. It's only forward or backwards. So in any position, most of the positions, a knight can move 8 or 4 places. Here, the knight can go 1, 2, 3. In most places, I say. But if the knight was, say, here, then the knight can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, correct arrow, 5, and 6. And don't forget 7 and 8. It can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 squares. By going 2 directions and then 1, and then 2 directions and 2 directions and 1, 2 directions and 1, and so on and so forth. And the knight is the only piece, in fact, that can jump over other pieces. For example, if white's pawn was here and it was black's turn, if our knight goes here, it doesn't capture this pawn because it jumps over the piece and it's not landing on the piece. But if black's pawn was, for example, over here, and black's knight was here, and the black's pawn moved from here to here, black's from here to here, white's pawn from here to here, then black's knight could capture it. Alright, because the landing piece is on the pawn, if that makes sense. Next up comes the rook. The rook is normally located for white on A1 and H1, and for black it's H8 and A8, like so. And the rook moves how many ever spaces to the right and how many ever spaces up and down and left. So you can basically think of the rook as like this, like this tracker that can move up, down, right or left. So like you can think of it as latitude and longitude, right? So latitude and longitude. So up and down, right and left. And also what I just did here, where I went up and then moved 1 space to the right, that was just a misclick. It can only go up, down, right, left, and how many ever spaces. So it doesn't always have to go to the end. It can stop like at D1, for example. And then to capture, it just hovers. You just, like any other piece, you just go over the piece you want to capture, like so. And next up comes the most valuable piece, which is the queen. The queen normally sits for white on D1 and for black D8, like so, and next to the king. So the queen is basically, if you think of it as a combination of a bishop and a rook. So it can move how many ever spaces up. It can move how many ever spaces diagonally, how many ever spaces to the right, to the left, and yeah, it's like that. And look, normally you would see it can only go on the white square because it's on the white square for the diagonals. But as soon as we go to the right and now click on the queen, we can only go to the dark square because it's on the dark square if it's like a bishop, right? So it's a culmination of a bishop and a rook, which is super helpful. And the rule is you can only get one of the queens, but you can definitely get multiple queens in the end game. So next is the piece you want to protect the most. It's formerly known as the king. It sits on e1 and e8 for black, and white is e1. And the king is just the queen, but can only move one space at a time in any direction. So it can move one space here, 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 and here. Right? Like so. And you can only you can only go one space here, 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 and here. Right? So that's pretty much the king. But next we're going to talk about how to even win a game of chess. So to even win a game of chess, you have to make the king in check, or check basically meaning where in as the king is going to be threatened and going to be attacked in the next move. So an example of a check is in this position. Let's say the bishop somehow teleports here. The king would be in check right now because in the next move black can attack the king. Right? So that is what check is. But there are three ways to deflect chess: block the checking piece, attack the checking piece, or just move your king. So we can't attack the checking. What have I done? We can't attack the checking piece right now because there's no place where we can attack the piece. We can't go knight here because then the bishop's just gonna take, right? But instead what we could do is we can block it by moving the pawn up to g3 and threatening to attack this bishop whilst also protecting the king, because if the bishop takes, we have the pawn takes bishop on g3. So that's what check is. But checkmate is whenever a place where the king cannot move any piece cannot attack the checking piece, and when the king when another piece cannot block the checking piece. In this position, black goes bishop h4, and we cannot in this position we cannot move the king, because if we move the king here, still attack. But instead we can't block the piece, because if we can't go knight to f3, we can't move our pawn up because black's just gonna take, right? Nor we can block it. So in this case, it would be considered a checkmate. So now you know what a checkmate is. Let's put it into a real situation, and we're just going to do a normal game. All right. So a made-up game. So first, white plays f3, then black plays e6, and then finally white plays knight to h3. In this position, black has an opportunity to give a check. And can you find out that check? Well, if you said queen to h4, you're correct, because now it's threatening the king. But instead of giving check, because a pawn can just attack like so, instead what we can do is we're just going to stall until this pawn it can't go to this square anymore. So black just stalls and goes to knight to c6, and then finally white plays pawn to g4. And now black realizes he has one move to get checkmate, because now this square is not guarding this. right? It can't block this square. So now black can play queen to h4, and now as you can look, and now it's a checkmate because white cannot go over here, white cannot block, and white cannot attack this checking piece, so it is considered a checkmate. So now you understood how to checkmate, and an example of a checkmate, we're going to be looking at an analysis. So let me go over here, and this is the analysis I versed against Niz249, which is a random player on chess.com. So first, Niz played pawn to e4. I responded with pawn to e5, king's pawn opening. Then Niz decided to play f3. I decided to play pawn to d5. So now, after that, Niz decided to capture my pawn on e5, and now because if we go back a move, now because he captured, I can capture this pawn, and that's exactly what I did. After I captured that pawn, he moved pawn to d3, and the reason why it says is a good move and c4 is the best move is because, as you can notice, this bishop is getting blocked. Is getting blocked by this pawn, so it cannot develop as well, except if he first plays bishop c4 and then plays this and then I play some random move and then he plays this move, right? But instead he did the opposite, and then he blocked his thing but still attacking my pawn. After I captured, he captured with his pawn. And this is an inaccuracy because number one, he could have captured with the bishop, and it would still be the same, and he would develop his bishop at the same time. But he played his c2 pawn took my d3 pawn. After I gave him a check using the rules of check, he blocked with his bishop. I traded, and after he took my bishop with his queen, I just tried to attack his knight. Now, the reason why, again, it says f6 is good and not the best is because now it's blocking my development of my queen. And what it says is, here it says e7 is the best. So that means I should have played, what is it? This move? Yeah, I should have played this move because now this knight can't go away because then it's going to be a self-check, right? And then on the next move, I'll just attack his king. So I played, he moved his knight. I moved my knight to e7, and then he brought his pawn up to d4, and that's the best because now he has this long diagonal attacking me, right? So he opened up his thing, and you might say, well, but Sohan, this knight is blocking the full development. Yeah, well, yes, that is true. All he can do is just move, move his knight somewhere over here and then bring it out. I castled, which is an inaccuracy because I didn't think about it, but I should have moved my knight here because if he does some random move like this move, if I move my knight here and he did this move, some random move, after I took, he wouldn't be able to take because of my queen, and I'll just take his queen for a knight. So after I castled, he moved his bishop. I moved my pawn up, probably because I wanted to keep safe from this queen attacking, eventually coming down from here and checkmating me, because I couldn't run away from my pawns. I couldn't run away from the queen, and my pawns were guarding me. But I realized that I had this spot open, right? So that's a mistake that I didn't realize. But also, God, what was that? Sorry. But he also had a mistake because he moved his bishop and he should have moved his knight. Probably because he could develop his knight. So he castled after I castled, I'm pretty sure. And then after I played knight to g6, he responded with pawn to g3. And that's a good move because, well, number one, if somehow my rook came here on this diagonal, if I attack this pawn, they will just attack it like so. So after he played, I played bishop to c3. After he moved, I played queen to d2. Now, can anybody notice? I'm going to give you y'all all an opportunity. Can anybody notice a checkmate that can happen in one move after white plays? Type it in the comments below. I'll give you the answer in 3, 2, 1. The answer is, if you said rook to e8, you're correct. No, I'm just kidding. It's instead queen to g2, which is a mate. Because what happened is after my Niz played, I had this beautiful mate because king can't go here, can't go here, and can't attack because of my bishop. So that's what that's why I defeated him in about 2 minutes, as you can see by the time. But what this was supposed to play is knight to over here, because if he did play that and not play this blunder, he would get this result. Because after I took, he still couldn't go over here, couldn't go over here, but know that he could still attack. And then after I attack, he could still attack, but now we don't have a queen anymore. But he blundered. He blundered us. He didn't see that I was threatening mate on the next move. Now, let's fix some inaccuracies here. Let's go back all the way to the first one. And he did, actually no, instead of doing this, let me just play a normal game with you guys. So let me just play a normal game. Alright, so we're playing against Everest. My turn, I play the Queen's Gambit. First I played the Queen's Pawn opening. If he responded with that, which he did, I'm just playing the Queen's Gambit. Is he going to accept? No, he designed. It does not. And if you notice what I just did there, the general rule of thumb is whenever this happens, normally if you attack, they would attack, right? And then we would have this bad pawn structure. But instead, I just locked up the position by moving my pawn up here, so it wouldn't do anything. He played knight to c5. I'm gonna develop. I'm gonna develop. See what he plays? Alright. I accept it. I accept what he just did. So now I think the best move for me is queen to d4 because I'm attacking this and giving a check after I attack. He goes back, which is normal. He might move here if he attacks. I'm just gonna give. Let's see. I might. Yeah, I'm def gonna capture. He's gonna move. No, never mind. It's in check right now. Okay, and now this is probably the best move for me. Bishop to c5. Why, Sohan? Because it's attacking this. Because it's attacking this bishop simultaneously at the same time. Just he can't attack because it's king. It's check right now. Should I trade? Yeah, I might trade. Wait, never mind. I thought I could trade, but then he's knight. I forgot. You know what? I'm just gonna keep the same diagonal, like so. He's probably gonna move his king somewhere, or something like that. Let's see. All right. I'm gonna just block and then just castle. And queenside. Oh, come on. You got to be kidding me. I'm gonna block. And yeah. I'm just gonna castle. Oh, okay. And I have a mate in couple of moves because oh, if I move my rook to e1, that's mate, I'm pretty sure. I'm threatening to mate. Oh, does he not see it? Yeah, he didn't see it. Okay, that's good. I just got a checkmate on him. So if you want, guys, this was an educational video. You can go back and rewatch the video to see if I had made any blunders. And clearly I did, but I'm not going to show it. And if I did make any blunder, tell me in the comments below, because yes, I know the blunder. In the comments below. And if you really enjoyed the content I make on this channel, please subscribe to support the channel and like this video if you liked it. Dislike if you don't like. So that's it for this video. Bye bye.